Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you've been able to join us virtually here as we have our final Lenten meditation over these past few weeks, and we look forward to Holy Week coming before us. The Lenten meditation for this evening is focused on the prophet Malachi. So we're going to be reading the 3rd chapter, verses 1 through 7a. See, I am sending my messenger to prepare the way before me, and the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come into his temple. The messenger of the covenant in whom you delight, indeed, he is coming, says the Lord of hosts. But who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he will purify the descendants of Levi and refine them like gold and silver until they present offerings to the Lord in righteousness. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to the Lord as in the days of old and as in the former years. Then I will draw near to you for judgment. I will be swift to bear witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, against those who swear falsely, against those who oppressed the hired workers in their wages, the widow and orphan, against those who thrust aside the alien. And do not fear me, says the Lord of hosts. For I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore you, O children of Jacob, will not perish. Ever since the days of your ancestors, you have turned aside from my statutes and have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, says the Lord of hosts. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. One of my favorite hymns is entitled "In the Midst of New Dimensions." We have only sung it a handful of times, and the times that we have sung it have usually been whenever I've been preaching and I've selected it as a hymn for us to be singing. It is number 315 in the hymnal, or you can go to hymnary.org and look it up there. This hymn has felt especially applicable during this new dimension we find ourselves in right now. So I would like to start by singing the first verse. In the midst of new dimensions, in the face of changing ways, who will lead the pilgrim peoples wandering in their separate ways? God of rainbow, fiery pillar, leading where the eagles soar, we, your people, ours the journey, now and ever, now and ever, now and evermore. I keep coming back to that first verse, to that question that just so stands out to me. Who will lead the pilgrim peoples wandering in their separate ways? I resonate deeply with those words right now. Because of the coronavirus, I have felt as if this Lenten journey has become this deeply spiritual pilgrimage toward Holy Week. Yet at the same time, I feel so separated from all of you, from family and friends, from the wider community. Yes, technology has been our friend in numerous ways, but I miss sitting over at Aroma's, cup of coffee in hand, cell phone put out of sight and out of mind. So it makes me think of this question. Who will lead the pilgrim peoples wandering in their separate ways. The refrain of this hymn is, God of rainbow, fiery pillar, leading where the eagles soar. I love that phrasing because it is not just saying the answer is God, but it is pointing to the array of ways in which God has been and continues to be revealed in the world. And one of my favorite ways in which God has been revealed is through the prophets. I especially have enjoyed us journeying through this Lenten season with the minor prophets here, listening to the ways in which God is showing up in ways that we haven't seen or experienced before, but have longed to hear about. There's always something so raw about the prophets, about coming to the community and proclaiming the words of the Lord, no matter how beautiful or brutal. I find such an honest God in the prophets, a God who provides me with a space of comfort as well as a space for discomfort. Every time I hear those words return to me, something shifts within my soul at that beautiful invitation. Every time I hear words of destruction and persecution, of people turning their backs against the Lord, it brings forth so many questions, so much room for not knowing, for feeling uncomfortable, for really wrestling with God. The prophetic voice of Malachi is the very last one in our Old Testament canon. The passage that I read for us, if it sounds familiar to you, it is because it is traditionally read during Advent and the proclaiming of John the Baptist as being the fulfillment of this prophecy that has been long awaited, of John the Baptist ushering in the Messiah. He is the long-awaited messenger who comes to prepare the way of the Lord during a season of anticipation and waiting. But the time difference between these words of Malachi and the fulfillment, we're talking about 400 to 500 years, give or take. Malachi was written to the Levitical priests and how they had fallen away from observing the cleansing rituals and process that they are called to observe when entering the temple, to this calling to which they have been called. Malachi comes as a messenger, telling the priests that there is one who is coming to be a messenger for the Messiah, who alone will be able to judge them and their actions. The priests did not know when this messenger was coming. Malachi had not given them a specific date to be looking for, but delivered the message that he was called to proclaim in a specific time and place. Once again, calls to mind that phrase, who will lead the pilgrim peoples wandering in their separate ways? I don't know about you, but the nature of being stuck in the in-between, between a prophecy proclaimed and the fulfillment, strikes very close to home right now. We heard about the severity of the virus whenever it was still in China. And we are still in this in-between as we wait for the fulfillment of this. Because we don't know when social distancing will officially end. We don't know when a vaccine will be created. We don't know all the ins and outs of this very complex virus. So yes, it most certainly feels like we are in a very ambiguous time. waiting for the fulfillment of a prophecy of understanding. But we aren't there yet, and we don't know when we will get there. Perhaps in many ways, this is the time in which we have been searching for a messenger, and our constant checking of the news and reading the latest updates. We are searching for messengers in the church, on social media, perhaps even among friends and family, eager for someone like a Malachi or a John the Baptist to shout with boldness and clarity, "Prepare the way of the Lord. He is like a refiner's fire, unchanging. Return to the Lord." Did you know that we know nothing about Malachi? It's not just that we don't know anything about the author, it is to the extent that commentators really do suspect and believe that Malachi may not be a personal name at all, but simply a title. My messenger. My messenger. I wonder, beloved, if we have become so consumed with finding the prophets that we have forgotten our own calling to be messengers and proclaimers of God's love, light, grief, and grace in this world. It makes me curious then to start considering, what is the message that we, the church, the community of faith, are sending right now during this time? Now let's take this one step closer. What messages are you proclaiming, both in word and deed, to others right now? Perhaps the best place to start discerning that question and your answer to it would be to ask yourself, what is the message that I most need to be reminded of during this time and place in my life? Do you need to be reminded of God's comfort? Do not be afraid, I am with you. Do you need a message of God's peace? My peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not that the world gives, do I give. Do not let your hearts be troubled, nor let them be afraid. Do you need a message of grief or lament? He has made my teeth grind on gravel and made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is. The key act of being a messenger is that you are continually delivering messages. You do not just receive a message and then hold it and hide it to yourself. That would be the equivalent of what Jesus spoke of in hiding your lamp under a bushel. No, messengers are continually exchanging and receiving messages, knowing that the messages you need to receive are equally necessary and needed to be heard by another. I want to leave you with some of those questions and thoughts to chew on, and I hope that you will join me in our discussion that we will be having at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. There's a Zoom link on the mywpc.org/online website. You can call in by phone or by video. For our prayer or moment of reflection, I would like to sing the last two verses of In the Midst of New Dimensions, and then I will send you off with a blessing by Jan Richardson. We are men and we are women, all persuasions old and young, each a gift, your creation, each a love song to be sung. God of rainbow, fiery pillar, leading where the eagles soar, we, your people, ours the journey, now and ever, now and ever, now and evermore. Should the threats of dire predictions cause us to withdraw in pain, may your blazing phoenix spirit resurrect the church again. God of rainbow, fiery pillar, leading where the eagles soar, we, your people, ours the journey, now and ever, now and ever, now and evermore. I leave you with this blessing called Rough Translations by Jan Richardson. Hope nonetheless, hope despite, hope regardless, hope still, hope where we had ceased to hope, hope amid what threatens hope, hope with those who feed our hope, hope beyond what we had hoped, hope that draws us past our limits, hope that defies expectations, hope that questions what we have known, hope that makes a way where there was none before, hope that takes us past our fear, hope that calls us into life, hope that holds us beyond death, hope that blesses those to come. Amen.